Well, hello, and welcome again to the 2012fad.com. I will be your host for this evening, and my name is Charlie Pluhawk. Last night we talked about words have power, and we discussed yet again the fact that our masters, Junior Management and Haight Incorporated, they can't evolve. They cannot evolve, they refuse to evolve, they refuse to make any kind of effort to make themselves better. And how words have tremendous power, not just over you and me as people, but over the universe, because a word is a thought, and it's a thought made manifest every time you speak. Because the universe is nothing but vibrations. You, me, we're just vibrations. We're patterns of energy. And the spoken word has power, whereas the written word has infinite power, because the written word is not only spoken, it's made physically manifest in our world. And if you're lucky enough to be published, hundreds of millions of people may read those words that you've put down on paper and repeat them. So the words you speak today might be spoken by 1 million people tomorrow. That is infinite power. And in Western culture, we have a children's rhyme that goes, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me." That's a lie. I know this, regrettably, from personal experience. I'd much rather have my bones broken, and most of them have been so far, than have the abuse that's been spit at me by so many people. Firstly, by the people I lived with as a child who would tell me wonderful things. And this is to a small child, mind you. You're stupid, you're ugly, you're hideous. And it was always by the women of the tribe. And when I say tribe, I don't mean Native American per se. I'm talking about, well, I guess they were assets. I'm trying to think of a way of describing these people. They were assets of the U.S. military, of the CIA. And these assets were used, and for these CIA programs that I was a part of before I was even born, part of the program to create super soldiers, sex slaves, servants, cattle, part of the programming required that children be horrifically abused, raped, tortured, beaten. And all of that aside, I would rather have lived through that than receive the words I heard, to be the recipient of the things I heard. Because this one old woman who was in charge of this particular tribe, and in the West, the women are always in charge of the tribes, her favorite thing to say to me was, "You will always be alone, because once people get to know you, they won't like you." And that hurt. To say that hurt doesn't even begin to express it. And if you ever doubt that women are in charge in these clans in the West, just look at the two female leaders of the biggest clan, the biggest group in the Western world. Queen Elizabeth of England and Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands. They are the owners of the Crown of England. The Crown of England owns 98% of the United States. So when you see atrocities being committed in the West, when you see women's rights being destroyed, you see children going hungry, you see people homeless and starving, that's where it comes from, the Queen of England and the Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands. So never doubt that the women are in charge behind the scenes. And it's with words that our masters control us. Beautiful lies. I mean, who would not prefer a beautiful lie over an ugly truth? Well, besides me. Because, see, you and I only have the ugly truth. And the truth is scary. The truth is horrifying. But you see, the truth only hurts for a moment, and then you're free. A beautiful lie can't last on its own, so it has to be covered by more lies and more lies and more lies. So eventually, you don't even know where to go. You're buried alive in lies. And that hurts forever as well. And so tonight I thought we would chat about hate is education. I certainly have learned a lot from experiencing hatred in so many different places and at so many times. It seems to me, I'm 53 this month, and it seems to me in reflection that I've known so much hatred from so many places, and what really always astonishes me, I can walk into a room and all of a sudden I am the target of the most horrifying hatred I could possibly imagine. And all I did was walk into the room. And I'm long past being mystified by this. It just happens. But hatred is educational because I was going to say all my life, but most of my life I believed in what I thought were two great truths of our existence. The first is that people were basically good. And I wasted a tremendous amount of my life on that fantasy. And when I was lured to New Zealand after 6 years of hearing how highly educated the population was, how professional the leadership was, how open they were to the future and looking forward towards a bright future, and how welcoming they were to foreigners, and how they wanted to work together as a team to build to a bright and beautiful future. I said, wow, I'm going. Plus the fact I heard there were 22 women to every man. I said, oh, I like that. And I got there and discovered it was all lies. Except the fact that there are about 22 women to every man, and the women hate and despise, just viciously hate men, their own men. And what they hate worse than New Zealand men is men from the United States, which is why you don't see too many people from the United States there. But that was very educational. The 3 years that I was being hated and despised and loathed simply by walking down the street because I, quote unquote, didn't look like one of them. But hate is educational, because I learned in New Zealand the lie that I had lived under, that if given the choice, people are basically good. They're not. And it saddened me a lot, but, that's just the way it is. I then got to Europe after I fled the United States for New Zealand, then I fled New Zealand for Europe, and where I encountered, the first woman I encountered here destroyed my second myth of my life, that love was the most important thing in the world. If you could find your soulmate, that was the epitome of love. Well, I found my soulmate, and she and her girlfriend hated, loathed, despised, and basically raped the soul out of my body every single night for months, and thought it was a lot of fun. That was very educational. Hate is educational. When I was little, I can't say I was ever young, but when I was little, I was a whipped dog. I was a beaten animal. I was terrified of everyone and everything constantly because I was a beaten animal. That's part of the CIA programming. That's why I say no one is a survivor of these CIA programs. The people who we were going to be are dead. The people we wanted to be are dead. The people who nature intended us to be are dead. So we're basically walking corpses, all of us. We're just, well, in my case, I'm just too stupid to realize I'm dead, and I just won't lie down. I don't know why. But even as a whipped dog, even as a beaten animal, I look back now and I realize that despite the fact that I was terrified all the time, I was still fighting them. And I have all the broken bones and the tortured soul to prove it. Even when I was terrified out of my mind, I was still fighting them. And I cannot tell you why. I don't know why. I don't know how. But it's simply the truth that a whipped dog, a beaten animal, will eventually turn and fight. Stand his ground and fight. Apparently I did. And when I finally stood my ground to their leader, they never beat on me again. It's a long story. I was, I guess I must have been 15. And the leader of the tribe, this old woman, fat old woman, was doing what she normally does. It was punching me with her fists as hard as she could, and I was doubled over up against in the corner trying to protect my face because she'd already broken my nose a few times. And she was pounding on me like she always does. And me, I was a whipped dog. I was a beaten animal. I was terrified. But something in me that day snapped. And I shoved her. I shoved her, and she went clear across the room. And I was so surprised, I just stood up and looked at her, and I could see the surprised look on her face. We were both amazed that I had actually defended myself. And then I saw something in her face that I'll never forget. She suddenly realized, this fat old cow, that she could no longer punch me or kick me or break my bones and get away with it. She could no longer safely abuse me or hurt me because I might just hit her back. And I saw this ripple of emotions across her face. The first was surprise, and then rage that anybody would dare defy her. And then I saw fear, because now she could no longer punch me safely, because I might just punch her back. And from that day forward, she never touched me again. She is what our masters are. Cowards, bullies, thugs. Hate is very educational. It's like when people say, why does God allow bad things to happen? To give us a choice, so we can learn. Now, I could have become a monster like these people who I lived with. I could have become one of them. I actually, when I was very young, maybe 12, I tried for a whole week to be like one of them. Nasty, mean, cruel. And it scared the hell out of them. Because I was better at it than they were. Personally, I didn't like it. So I didn't do it. I had the choice. I made the choice. Now, there was a little girl living with us who was their daughter. She was such a sweet little thing when she was young. And I was forever begging her, pleading with her to run away from these people because she was greatly loved. She had lots of friends. She could have gone anywhere and been taken in. Sweet, adorable little thing. She made the choice of her own free will to become one of them. And she became one of them, and she became their leader. And she became the worst of them. She had a choice. She did. She made her choice. No, I'm not religious. I am anti-religion. I am pro-reality. So whenever I use words like God or the devil or Satan or Yahweh or Amalek, I'm trying to come up with ways of explaining what I'm trying to say to you. I'm using words that we can both understand and put in some sort of context. But please understand, I am against religion. Religion is created by us, or worse, by our masters. Again, it's a means of controlling us. Someday we'll talk about the Holy Roman Catholic Church, which is actually nothing but the Holy Roman Empire, rebranded, given a new name. Hate is educational. There's no doubt about that. But the trick is, never be ashamed for what was done to you. Never be ashamed by what other people did to you. You were the victim, probably with no reason. Never allow anyone to shame you into what somebody else did to you. As far as I can tell, you're not judged by whomever, the universe, whatever. You're not judged by what's done to you. You are judged by how you react to what was done to you. What was done to me, I encountered hatred, the broken bones, the gang rapes, and I could easily have become one of them and taken over the whole tribe. I chose not to. The little girl, the sweet little girl I grew up with, she embraced hatred and became their leader. She became the worst of them. She had a choice. Do you want to become a monster? I mean, it really gets down to that. Do you want to become the thing that you hate? That's why I tell people don't hate anyone. I personally don't hate anybody. Not for any religious reasons, but it's just basic physics. There's a fancy word, quantum entanglement, but we'll get into that some other day. When you hate somebody, when they've hurt you so badly, all you can do is think about them day and night. You become obsessed with them until you get to the point where you become them. One of the best ways to overcome hate is to talk about it. Talk to anybody who will listen. I'm talking to you. I've known so many people who spent their whole lives hating somebody. I remember my friend, very nice man I knew in Los Angeles. He tried to help me with a couple of my business projects. My internet video broadcasting company, the Cyber Television Network. It's going to be the 5th television network. I had developed the software that would allow us to broadcast TV quality, full screen, stereo sound, the whole bit, down to a 33 modem. And we could have made, billions. But anyway, all the monsters, the masters wanted to steal it and kill it because they needed to control communication. Anyway, nice man. He must have been, when I knew him, in his 60s, 70s. But to that day, he hated his father. And he hated his father. I don't even know if his father was still alive, but he hated his father for what his father had done to his mother. He hated his father so much he became his father. Because he hated his father for what his father had done to his mother. And I was at his house one day, and his girlfriend was there, a lovely lady, and he was treating her exactly the way his father used to treat his mother. I was speechless. I was horrified. Don't hate anyone because it gives them power over you. Hate is educational. Learn from this. Someone hurts you? Okay, deal with it. Have a plan. Have no emotion. I think maybe this is what the Christian God, Jesus, said. Turn the other cheek. I think what he meant was, whatever translation, I don't speak Aramaic, so I can't tell you. But, I'm sorry, Aramaic was the language that Jesus spoke, and it's only spoken in one little village somewhere in the middle of nowhere. But when the Christians say turn the other cheek, I like to think, now that I consider it, they mean don't hate anyone. Because the moment you hate someone, that locks you to them. You become bound to them. They control you. And the question really is, do you want someone who would hurt you this badly, do you want to let them have power over you? That's why I say don't hate our masters. Simply deal with them. Deal with the reality of the situation. You don't want to hate them because then it gives them power over you. Don't do that. Be yourself. I am. I am that I am. I am myself. I'm no one else. So no, I'm not going to hate you. I'm simply going to deal with you. You need to be arrested. You need to be put on trial. We need to hire attorneys to represent you. We need to hire attorneys to represent us. We need to look at your bank accounts. Why do you have trillions of dollars? Where did this money come from? We need to hire investigators. We need to put our masters on trial for the atrocities they've committed, but never hate them for it. Because the moment you hate them, they own you. For myself, I guess I was, late 20s. I have problems with time. I wrote a letter, and I made 3 copies, and I sent it to 3 different members of the families, this one family that I grew up with. And I wrote in vivid detail everything that they had done to me. And I told them, and I quote, "You always thought there were no witnesses to what you did to me. You were wrong. There was a witness. It was me. And do you know who I tell about you? You know who I talk to about you? anyone who will listen, unquote. At the bottom of the letter, I think the letter was like 20 pages long, I said that my last sentence was, please stop by and visit me sometime. My neighbors would love to meet you. They never bothered me again. Because I learned to talk. I learned to talk about what was done to me without shame. Because I didn't deserve anything that was done to me, as far as I know. I learned that the only thing that evil, that hatred fears, is when their victims talk. The only thing our masters fear is the truth. Words have power. The spoken word has power. The written word has infinite power. And our masters, up until now, have counted on us to be good slaves, good cattle, cows. Take the abuse and shut up. You probably did something that you deserve to be abused this way, therefore you should be ashamed that I had to do it to you. No. Never be ashamed by what somebody else does to you that's wrong. If you have to be ashamed of how you responded. Did you talk? Did you save somebody else from sharing your fate of that being done to you because you said nothing? Then you should be ashamed. So I guess my point is never be quiet. Never be silent. Hatred, evil, are masters. Evil exists because as good people, we, again, turn the other cheek. Don't make trouble. Oh, we have to keep it in the family. Or what really terrified the family I lived with was, what would the neighbors think? Because when they used to beat me senseless into unconsciousness, break my bones, I knew never to scream. Because if I did, and the neighbors heard, or if this family thought the neighbors could hear me, I can't even imagine what they would have done to me then. I learned as a small child never to cry out when they were beating me. Never to make a sound. To this day, I don't make any noise at all when I walk. And I'm a big fat guy. But I can move soundlessly through a room. Why? Because if I made sound as a child, they would notice me. Personally, I don't care what the neighbors think. The other thing you have to remember is once they're done hurting you, they're going to go hurt somebody else. And if you've got a conscience, if you've got a soul, then you should be ashamed if you don't say anything. Can you actually live in silence while those who hurt you are now hurting someone else? Right now, our masters are hurting innocent people all over the world. They're hurting our neighbors at home. They're stealing everything that we have and spitting on us at the same time. Yes, at that point, yes, you should be ashamed. Me, I can't shut up, and I won't. Hate is very educational, but what are you going to learn from it? What lesson are you going to learn from hate? I listen to what you say. I watch what you do. That terrifies our masters. It terrifies the evil. But then you go talk about the difference between I listen to what you say, you said this, I watch what you do, you did something else. Did you know that Barack Obama promised to get us out of all these wars, and he started more? Barack Obama promised to give us our country back, he took it away. I listen to what you say, I watch what you do. Hate is educational. I've learned things that even now I'm still learning things. I'm trying to learn a lot less because I'm really tired of hatred. What are you going to do? Because God and the devil, Amalek and Yahweh, if they exist in our little pocket universe, our little soap bubble of a universe we live in, you and I. Because God and the devil, the only thing they can agree on, as far as I can tell, as far as two bickering girlfriends, two bickering lovers can go, the only thing they've given us is the right to choose. Good or evil, love or hate. It's the only thing they can agree on. And you and me were the children trapped in between. We have to decide. It really is your choice. It's really up to you. I like what the ancient Celts said, and I understand it more and more every day. They wanted you to be yourself and no one else. Just like Jesus wanted you to have knowledge, Jesus never wanted you to have faith. He didn't want you to have faith. He wanted you to know. And so I leave you with this ancient Celtic blessing, prayer, chant, dream. May you live as long as you wish. May you love as long as you live. For the 2012fad.com, this is Charlie Blue. The 2012 Fad is brought to you by Coffee and Blood, Love Letters Between the Dead, a series of 5 erotica horror novels about a fallen angel finding his way back to regain his own soul, and how the CIA war against the human race, their black magic, captures and traps him in the body of a mind-controlled slave designed to hunt down and to kill their god, their Satan.